This episode of Best of the Best is brought to you by Nick Carrot, Editor-in-Chief of Hardcore Gamer. This week on Best of the Best, it's Best Dreamcast Game.
Yes.
Now, I know not all of us had a Dreamcast, but we're going to cover this. We'll probably hit something different next week.
I'm honestly a little surprised that, and this is I don't really know Nick Cameron's gaming path. I know that he's a PC guy, but I know that I'm surprised that Nick Carrot did not play very much of the Dreamcast. I don't know if Jeff had a Dreamcast, but I'm surprised that you didn't play it. Dreamcast was a really good system.
Yeah, you never played any Dreamcast games?
Elliot had one. My friend Kyle had one. Steve eventually got one.
Steve's is over there on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. I should probably take that. And I know it was a good system. It had a lot of good game, a few good games on there, and we'll mention them in a second.
Yeah, classic library of games.
And it's like, I'd watch, I watched Steve play Shenmue. I played Puzzle Fighter on it, which was originally, I believe that came out for the PlayStation, and it got ported to the Dreamcast, or the other way around.
What are you going to hold up as the best one there, Tom?
I am going to hold up, and this is a short story. I had a Game Boy Advance, and I actually sold my Game Boy Advance to buy a Dreamcast and a copy of this game when it first came out because I was so excited. And that game is Resident Evil Code Veronica, which I played it. I beat it for the system at the time. I've played through it a few times since. And yeah, it is probably the last great classic in the tradition of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. It's the last great classic Resident Evil game in terms of its campiness and presentation. And it was the first Resident Evil game that they brought into true 3D, which at the time, I think the game came out in 2000, 2001. Graphically, I had not played a game that was that well realized up until that point. So my best of the best Dreamcast game goes to Resident Evil Code Veronica, which was it still is a great game.
And that one still has the tank controls, right?
Yeah.
And the load screens, I remember. Yeah. So it's much similar to the first three.
Right. Yeah. It has more in common, and that's why I say in the classic tradition of 1, 2, and 3, it has more in common than Resident Evil 4. So I personally think that this game, in terms of how I place it in the canon of things, this is my part 4. Part 4 goes into that whole new direction of being an action horror game. So 4, 5, and 6 are their own separate thing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So for my pick, though, best of the best Dreamcast game, I'm going to go with Shenmue 1 and 2. Whoa. Now, I think Shenmue kind of defines the system because that was
the game for Dreamcast.
Yeah,
it's a great game up until you have the job on the docks and you're just moving crates around.
All right, yeah, we've been over this. You realize that's the end of the game, though, dude, right? That's the last CD, and that's it. After that, the first game ends. He gets on the boat and he goes to China, dude. The forklift is the end of the game.
Maybe I should play it again. That's kind of where I gave up.
I know. I remember you telling me that, and when I played it later, I was like, "Shit, this is the end of the game." Damn. But yeah, I remember you had it back in the day, and I remember you telling me all this stuff at school, and I was like, "Damn, that sounds interesting." There's not at the time I couldn't come up with any other PC games that I would have played or that I had going on. So I remember. So you can go to the vendos and buy stuff. You can go to the arcade. You can do all this stuff within the game that's separate from the main quest or whatever, separate from the main deal. Yeah, the second game ends on a cliffhanger that kind of sucks. And the weird thing, though, too, is the second game is 2 or 3 times as long as the first one. Because the first one is chapter 1, I think. Chapter 2 is in the middle that's not covered in the games. It's a comic or something. And then it's Shenmue 2 is actually chapters 3, 4, and 5, or something like that. I may have that mixed up a little bit, but the second game is significantly longer, and there's all these different places you go to. Should we touch on any other Dreamcast games? I was trying when we were getting this segment ready. I was trying to come up with some other games, but
I mean, there was Jet Set Radio Future. There was
the only game that
Crazy Taxi was on there, right?
Yeah. Crazy Taxi.
The only game that I ever really got into on Dreamcast was actually Phantasy Star Online, which I thought was a dope game, but I never got to play it as much as I really wanted to because I never had a Dreamcast
Aren't there
myself.
there's some decent RPGs on there.
That was really the only one I ever
Yeah.
played, but I did see some really cool ones. And I know Phantasy Star Online came out, I think, for like PS2 and 360 also, so I guess you still could play those if you didn't have a Dreamcast.
Some of the Skies games came out on Dreamcast, no?
I don't know.
Or was that just GameCube? I don't remember.
Is it Skies of Arcadia? I keep seeing that. It's one of those RPGs I keep seeing thrown around on all these like top Dreamcast lists, and I see the description and I see the screenshots of it, and I'm like, damn, that looks tight. I should check that out, and I haven't got around to it. All right, so what are we gonna say on this to close out Best of the Best this week? I guess it could go either way. I mean, I'm partial to Shenmue just because of the story, but I'll admit Resident Evil Code Veronica was pretty damn good.
I feel like
I think we're pretty tied here.
I think Shenmue has there's like a mystique about it. You know what I mean?
I would say Shenmue was more unique.
Yeah.
And it was much more. It was a bigger risk, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think when you think of the Dreamcast, I think you definitely think of Shenmue more than Resident Evil Code Veronica.
Really? I don't know about that. I'm gonna say it was. I'm a survival horror fan. I'm gonna say that my favorite game was definitely Code Veronica. For sure.
That's we've had ties on each one of these so far, so that's cool. If we can't pick a best one, no problem, because those stand out definitely. So there you go, Resident Evil Code Veronica and Shenmue 1 and 2.